Right.
I don't like how it does that. Anyway, hi everybody. This is Fantastic Female Role Models, where we share the female perspective, let them say what they got to say. And today I have Liz Landis with me, who is a fantastic friend. And she's going to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself, and then after that, we'll get going. So Liz, go on ahead. Tell us what's all about you.
Right on. Hi, I'm Liz. Mike and I were lucky enough to run together in college at Lawrence, and that's how we got to know each other and got to bond. And I've stayed in touch here and there. I'm not easy to stay in touch with, so I always appreciate hearing from Mike. I live in Southeast Alaska now, and I've called this place my home base for about 4 years now. Originally from the Midwest, and so this is a whole different world and life that I still feel like I'm a teeny tiny fish in this vast ocean that is Alaska and being Alaskan, but it is 100% my home now, and I love every minute of it, and it's really weaving itself into my identity as an outdoors woman, as an environmentalist, as a homesteader, as all of these things.
Yeah. Cool. So just remind me, how did we get from the Midwest to Alaska? Can you remind me how that happened?
Yeah. I lived what I would consider a very vanilla life. And then I got to college and started to explore options of outdoor living and minimalist living in my times when I wasn't at school in the Midwest. And so I started to go wherever I could when I was on break. And usually I was going somewhere where I could do agriculture. That's still a big passion of mine, and or like backpacking were the two things that kind of strayed me away from what I had spent the first 18 years of my life doing. And after I graduated, I was still following growing seasons, and I didn't want to live anywhere. And so I was pretty nomadic and open to whatever. And so when one of my best friends from my hometown called me and said, "What are you doing next summer? Do you want to go to Alaska?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Cool. I'm not doing anything next summer. Here we go." And
Yeah.
I'd been to Alaska a couple times doing service work on the remote West Coast.
Okay.
But we started this road trip up here, and she was trying to find kind of like a new life, and I was just looking to do stuff. And we got hardcore stuck here in Southeast Alaska. We actually didn't make it any farther than an island outside of Juneau called Shelter Island.
Okay.
And it was only supposed to be our first stop. And I'm in her house right now. She's lived here for 4 years straight, and I've continued to bop around a little bit, but definitely know that I am anchored in Alaska, and particularly Southeast. So it's been a love affair / addiction, I would call it. I'm still definitely in the honeymoon phase.
Right.
Even when it rains for 10 days straight, it's still love it.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
You can get over that.
I've definitely grown to prefer it.
Yeah, that's wild to me, because I feel like my path out of college was very different, and that's because I had a lot of other stuff going on. But I very much planted roots right out of school. Yep, I'm here. I still live in the town that I went to school in. I haven't left. I have a family here and everything like that. And you've gotten to do, not to label you, but you've gotten to go on like this adventure, and kind of go where the wind takes you, so to speak. Even if you have like an anchoring spot, like you're in Alaska, that's where your home is. But you've been in California for a little bit, you've been elsewhere in Alaska, you've been backpacking all over the place. Clearly you're going and doing whatever it is that you feel like you got to do, and that's super cool. Yeah. It is. It's
it didn't start from a cool place. It started from kind of like a flailing, unhealthy place.
Well, okay, sure, but like,
But like many great things, you have to make a lot of mistakes first, and
right. Yeah,
you got to really like nosedive into some things that maybe aren't right for you,
sure.
or do the right things for the wrong reasons, or whatever. And that's kind of what it started as for me, was
Mhm.
just chasing the honeymoon phase of a place, and it would be over and I'd be like, well, I'll just change my location and then jet
Right,
off to wherever else I could go and make it
right,
last, and depend a lot on the generosity of other people. And um yeah, I guess got lucky in that aspect, but it 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 demanded a lot of self-reflection to do that sort of thing. And I it's funny because I admire people who are sure of the place that they are, and sure of what they're doing, and know what their dream is, and go after it, and like feel content in the life that they have.
right,
I've battled with that so much that it's it's
right,
admirable to me to be able to sit still.
right.
I think it's something that I seek somewhere down the road.
Eventually, you'll find that
Uh-huh.
like spot, that sweet
Yeah.
spot, and be like, this is where I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so your most recent kind of uh, adventure backpacking thing. I know you did it's the Northwest. What's the trail
Pacific
called?
Crest Trail.
Okay,
Pacific Crest Trail, yeah.
Pacific Crest
PCT.
Trail. So that's
Yeah.
like following the Rockies, right?
It's oh, it's like following the line that is the Sierra Nevadas and then eventually the Cascades, to
Gotcha.
from Mexican border to Canadian border.
Right.
So
Okay.
mostly like the center of California and Oregon and like kind of eastern Washington.
Sweet. So
Mhm.
did you? I don't remember. Did you finish the whole trail, or did you have to stop because of the fires?
I chose to stop because of the fires. Plenty of people kept going, and I have a lot of feelings that I've been working through and unpacking as I watch other people's success stories of their the people I hiked with and around are finishing about this time.
Right.
And I kind of cut myself off from social media to avoid triggering myself by looking at that, because it was such a bash to my ego to
That
walk
you
away
didn't
from
quite
the
make it.
trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I made it really far, and I didn't realize that until a lot of people told me that I made it really far, and I made the right decision to not walk through wildfires or not skip a huge chunk of trail to go around wildfires just to get this end goal
Right.
completion. Like I
Hmm.
wanted to do it to do it, not to um, suffer through it in a way that harms my body more than
Right.
long distance hiking is terrible for you, by the way. Um, Personal experience. And I didn't want to have to like muscle my way through it. And I felt like I was surrounded by that kind of energy and
Right.
needed to hardcore cut myself off to be able to um, be happy with my decision to
Right.
leave and return to Alaska.
Well, I mean, and ultimately you have to do what's best for you, even
Yeah.
if it's something you really wanted. It's,
Yeah.
it's very like strong of you to be like, this is what I want, but it's not, it's not what it needs to be for me to be healthy. And then saying,
Hmm.
I'm going to take a step back. And it's not like you can never go back and do it again. Like,
I'm so ready to, well, not this moment, but I'm looking forward to finishing it, first of all. And
right.
maybe in a decade when I've forgotten all of the suckiness of it and I want to see the trail again, maybe I will do it like beginning to end in one chunk, because I love physical feats like that. And I think, and I really wanted to say that I did it in one shot. I really, 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 really wanted that.
Mhm.
Uh, and right now, I'm like, I don't want to do those first 1,700 miles again. I'm good. Saw them, did them. They're great. I'll take hike pieces of it, whatever. But like
Yeah.
all of those passes and long water carries are way too fresh in my memory.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Like want to
Um,
go backpacking at all right now,
yeah. Yeah.
but I
I
still
mean,
love it. And want
like
to.
the I've only gone backpacking one time, and it was very structured in the sense that I was on like Boy Scout property with like set trails, and like we were supposed to go from point A to point B every day, and like we knew where we were going. And then there was a spot for us to be, and we had guaranteed source of food and like all that kind of stuff. And even then, like when I finished it, I was like, that was cool. I don't think I'm ever gonna do this again.
I might have felt this very similar after my first backpacking trip too, mostly because like maybe you'd feel this way more recently, but I was like, walking is so slow. Why would we walk when we could just run everywhere and like not carry everything on our backs?
Right, exactly. Like if you could like put your stuff on a van and have the van drive to where you're going to be, and then just like run to where you're going to be next. That would
I'm
be
actually daydreaming about that for the Appalachian Trail.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can find somebody game enough to be my slack pack.
Yeah.
To be my backpack for me, and then I could just run.
That'd be so legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Walking, not great. Don't love it.
Yeah.
Did a lot of it.
Not the best form of transportation that we have available to us.
No, but I learned that you can say about everything that it's within walking distance.
That's true.
If Mexico is within walking distance from Canada, then I have nothing to complain about to walk a mile to the store.
That's fair. Yeah, now you have a sweet backpack to carry it all with. So
that backpack was and is still an extension of my body. It is.
Yeah, can you like feel it on yourself when you're just walking around and you're like, oh, it's so weird that it's not there?
Actually, I would lose my balance a little bit more often when I wasn't carrying my backpack. If I'd like go to town and drop my stuff somewhere so I could do a food resupply.
Yeah.
Be like, this is hard. I don't.
Where's my extra weight?
I know, my 30 pounds, like that grounded me. I go too fast now. Everything hurts when I don't wear my backpack. But, yeah.
Nice.
Tried and true. Osprey. That's my my gear recommendation of the year.
Osprey?
Osprey. Yeah, mostly to all of those folks who looked at me skeptically because I was carrying a not ultralight backpack and I was wearing Chaco sandals. They're like, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, yes.
I'm an expert.
I'm doing exactly what I need to do for me.
Yeah. Also, like when I was backpacking, there was this guy who brought his guitar with him. And so like he walked the whole way with the guitar. And a lot of us thought he was crazy because it was extra weight. He couldn't put it in his backpack. And like, it's like, it's great that you want to be entertained, but like that just seems like a lot of extra work. So when you're trying to like walk up a mountain, like you probably don't want to have that guitar with you. But he made it the whole way. Like he was fine. Yeah. Totally. His guitar was a little beat up at the end, but like he said he like bought a junker for this whole purpose. Just like he's like, I know that this isn't gonna survive the trip. I'm gonna buy a cheap guitar and then just carry it with me. Yeah. But yeah. And
you always appreciate having that person at camp. You're like, I'm really glad that you decided to schlep that up here because now I get to enjoy some music.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I didn't bring my Bluetooth speakers and my portable charger for this, multiple.
I did that once on an early backpacking trip in my life. I carried a Bluetooth speaker with me. I was like, it's for bears. And now anytime somebody walks past me with music playing, I'm like, oh.
You're not a real backpacker. You've
got my ambiance.
You've got you broke the nature. How dare you?
Oh man, the number of PCT hikers that you walk by, especially after a month, that have headphones in 100% of the time is pretty impressive.
Yeah, impressive. I feel like that you missed some of the point of walking the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
I was probably lucky. I was probably lucky that I had a lot of misfortune with headphones, and so I spent probably 75% of the trail without any headphone of any sort.
Right.
But yes, there's definitely something to just being quiet all day, even if it means you're shutting your brain off and you're not even keeping yourself entertained with thoughts. It's a good skill to have, to
Yeah.
be able to be quiet. I think it's a skill that's absent among people who can't have their hands empty and can't listen to their own thoughts or listen to nothing.
It's definitely like a lost art, I feel like, because, you know, even just like 40 or 50, well, no, it's more than that now. I keep forgetting it's the 2020s. You know, like,
80s or 40 years ago.
yeah, I know, you know, like, okay, so 50 or 60 years ago now, because we're getting old. You know, like you couldn't have like portable music, or like you didn't have a cell phone or anything like that. So if you went on this hike, you would be without all of that. And now now there are people who are specifically choosing to give up those things because they're like, my body needs this, or the lack of this skill is detrimental, and I want to make sure that I have it. So, which is
calling it a detox too, I think is really telling of the whole effect of it on us, and the way that sometimes maybe the technology is in charge and we're just kind of like slave to it or addicted to it or something, and using it as escapism kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a hard time going without my phone for more than like an hour, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Like, I definitely lean on it. It's a crutch for me. You know, it's like there are times where it's like I don't really want to think about anything, but I can mindlessly scroll through, you know, Instagram and not have to think, and that's really nice. So it's kind of like an artificial go out and
it's so damn convenient. That is, for me, it's I still fall victim to just kind of like getting into a habit of watching too much TV at night.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm so exhausted. I want something entertaining me, but I don't even have it in me to pick up a book.
Right.
And then it becomes this escapist thing that is definitely feeding something else in my life, and I'm using it on the surface to be like, I'm just winding down, and then I can't fall asleep because I've been staring at a screen
for hours. Right.
Yeah.
100%.
It's hard. Moderation. Everything in moderation, including moderation. I feel like that was a Coach Fast quote, or I'm just butchering it to fit my life.
I think that was an adaptation of a Coach Fast quote. Yeah, that's sounds pretty
but
similar.
I still use it all the time. Definitely still like to fit in some extremes.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might as well while you have the chance.
Right? Yeah, like walking for 3 months straight.
Yeah.
Now exactly. I'm good. I feel the equivalent of like a neutered puppy that you're like, oh, we're going to go take him to get fixed, and he'll calm down and it'll be great. He'll be a much better behaved dog after we get him fixed. That's kind of how I feel. That I did the extreme for a while, and now I'm still in this long recovery phase, and I'm still unpacking all of this like experience that happened. That it was a journey about, for me, it was a journey about working with the ego, and neither letting it rule your life nor demonizing it. No, it's something that exists in all of us. And prior to this, I mean, I'm like very competitive and ego driven and self-conscious, and all of those things are really tied together. And was like, oh, I need to like kill the ego. It's
I'm gonna go walk for 3,000 miles, and it'll be dead after that.
I'm gonna leave it behind. It's gonna die of thirst in the desert.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it came from, but someone was like, you don't have to fight the ego. Like, just listen to what it has to say. You're like, that's nice. I'm going to listen to my spirit instead, or I'm going to look at this from a non-emotionally charged standpoint and make decisions like that. And dude, long distance hiking, when other people around you are long distance hiking, great ego check. if you take the effort to to look at it that way rather than getting caught up in the rat race of walking 2 to 3 miles an hour
Right.
for 10 hours a day. It is a rat race. I even had somebody like check me on that pretty early on, and I'm grateful for it. He wasn't saying it to me directly, but just like people escape the world and you're getting away from technology, and then you're spending all day listening to music or podcasts, or your days turn into like wake up, hike, eat, hike, sleep, hike, eat, hike.
Right.
And you're not enjoying this incredibly privileged, beautiful thing that you're doing.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely wavered in some of my belief of that, because the competitive edge would kind of come up and you're like, oh, I need to keep up. I need to start hiking 30 miles a day like everybody else around me.
Right.
There was also this like machismo kind of energy that
Sure.
came up, and all of that was very challenging, as especially with all the alone time in between these interactions, to be like, you're still hiking your hike.
Right.
And you don't have to hike anybody else's hike, and they're not hiking yours. And
right.
that's like a huge thing to be taking into the world with us. Of all of it, of comparative living, and I don't know, things that spark depression or anxiety when it comes to kind of existing in society rather than just existing as an island. I feel like life for me would be a lot easier if I didn't have other people's lives existing around me, but at the same time, then I'd be alone. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And so a good amount of alone time is good for you, and then too much alone time can not be good for you.
But not be good for you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like, I feel like this is clearly not 100% the same thing, but like, we're both former competitive runners, if you want to say that. I mean, you still run more than I do, but like, something I've had hard time grappling with is slowly losing that competitiveness, because inside of me, I'm still like, I should be able to run with these people. I should be able to keep up. I should be able to race the way I was able to race, which was now still hard for me to think about like 8 years ago almost. And like, I know, right? It's like, but like, like yesterday I tried to go running and I made it 15 minutes, and then my legs hurt and my body was sore. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I could keep going. And I walked home. Like, it wasn't, I've done that before. It's not like it's the first time I've ever done that. But like, coming to terms with that, like you said, that ego check of, this is what I'm capable, this is what I was capable of doing. And this is what I'm capable of doing now, 6 years later, is something that I'm really challenged by. Because yeah, it's like, yeah, I used to be able to run, go out and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go run 8 miles, and I'm gonna come home and I'll take a shower and I'll be fine, and I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be like just any other day. And now I run.
Might even do it again.
Yeah, I might even do it the same thing the next day. And like, yesterday I ran for 15 minutes and I definitely didn't run today. And I woke up this morning and I was like, ow, my body hurts. Like, this is rough. And like, sometimes that feeling of like, wow, I really like, not even just competing with other people, but like, I can no longer compete with myself, is really challenging for me.
Which may be the most dangerous person to compare yourself to.
Oh, I know. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, you're the most similar and sometimes the most dissimilar as your past self.
Oh, I know.
Oh, it's rough. It's rough. But like, think about the difference in our lives and I still battle with this myself. Even I'm still really, really active, but I'm doing a lot more different things than I was as a competitive runner.
Right.
They were like, I don't know. I felt like I was a part-time student and a full-time athlete, even though we didn't go to a super athletic school or like run in a very vigorous program. That's just what I wanted to prioritize. And
right. I prioritized it too. Yeah. Running was definitely one of my top priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dedicated a large portion of my college life to it.
Totally.
Yeah.
it was a big part of your identity, and something I was just listening to an audiobook when I was working earlier today, and um the author was talking about how we have to be careful not to identify ourselves by, I am a mother, I am a wife, I am a lawyer, I am I can't even think of anything
An
else.
athlete.
So I fall into
I,
that. But like what happens when it ends? When
right.
you identify yourself as wholly that thing and not by like, I am, I love the outdoors, I prefer the rain, or winter is my favorite season. If you don't define yourself by things like that, or like, I am stubborn, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
What happens when those things end and suddenly you're left kind of like, oh my God, I have a family and a job, or this community, or these priorities, and they take up my time instead of running.
Right.
Who am I now? I
Right.
was a runner. Now who am I? I'm someone who loves running. I'm still a runner. I don't know. I'm
Right.
like fresh with this information, and really,
Mm-hmm.
really loved hearing that. I really am gonna kind of share that thought with other people, and make a conscious effort the next time somebody asks me, what do you do? Instead of being like, I'm unemployed. I'm unemployed. Sort of. I'm a landscaper-ish, farmer, whatever. Rather than that, like, what do you do? I don't know.
Right.
I run. I spend all my time outside. I uh, wish I spent more time doing art, things like that.
Right. It's more of a I am Liz than a I am Liz the farmer, or
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am I am Mike the athlete. It's more of I am Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which
I'm
yeah.
water. I am whatever you
Right.
are. Yeah, it kind of takes we were talking before I think we started recording about adulting,
Yeah.
or doing things a little more like being an adult.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel a little more childlike wonder to answer a question like that, rather than to be oriented around employment, or oriented around what you have, what you spend your day doing, that kind of like fits into the
That mold.
mold of like, okay, most people spend the time between 9 and 5 doing a job. What do you spend that time doing? I don't know. It's different every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's hard too, because you know, I feel like when we grow up, because we totally have. Um, but like when you're growing up, you're in your family's home, you're with your parents.
Mhm.
There's this like expectation of, like, they always frame it as, we want you to be successful, but that what they think as success and what you may
Mhm.
think is successful are different.
Totally.
Right. But when you're growing up, they're trying to be sneaky about it, and just be like, you could be whatever you want to be, but like really it's
Yeah.
like, you can be whatever you want to be as long as it's this or this. And like,
Uh-huh.
and even though they never say it, you kind of internalize, what they mean.
Hmm.
And so that's something I know I struggle with, is when at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm it's like, I'm not a teacher anymore. That's what I went to school for. I don't do that
Hmm.
anymore. Well, it's like, I spent so much money, I spent all that time on doing that, and now I'm trying to reconcile with myself. It's like, hey, that didn't work out. You've got to do something else. And
Yeah.
I think I've found that spot for me, at least for right now. But
Hmm.
like, that internal struggle of, is this really what mom and dad wanted me to do?
Yeah.
And not really focusing it on, is this what I want to do,
Hmm.
is a huge thing. And it's rough. Like, a lot of people that I talk to are like, gosh, adulting is so hard. It's mostly because they're still trying to be like their parents,
Yeah.
and not
Fit
what
into the mold.
right, and not they're trying to fit into what their expectations were, and
Hmm.
not and not do what they need to do for their own success. And that's hard to do. It's hard when that kind of stuff is ingrained in you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you said right now what you're doing is working for you and it's serving you right now. And
Right.
maybe teaching you served you when you were studying it or whatever, but I've definitely been on a similar journey of like coming to terms with myself, with my own alternative definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a brother who's 3 years older than me, and he
Yeah.
finished his PhD this year.
Nice.
And it's the same year when COVID hits and everyone does Zoom. So my parents were like, on holidays, let's Zoom together. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. And I'm just doing whatever. And I moved to a new town and kind of like worked on finding myself there. And
Mm-hmm.
in these meetings, my brother's like, I'm submitting my thesis and I'm arguing my thesis and looking at these postdoc opportunities. And I'm over there like, I'm a part-time baker. I picked up skiing again this winter. I live with 5 other people. Just like, oh, this is hard. And another moment was, it was like kind of abrasive in that situation, even though any other time I'd be like, I'm so happy with what I'm doing right now. Like I'm prioritizing spending the day outside. Like I work from 5 to 11 a.m. so that when it's daylight out, I can be outside. I can be enjoying it.
Right.
And I'm not working some job that I hate or that takes over my life or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just kind of having to check that because it's hard when you're confronted with either speaking to your parents or looking at other people's success and what that means to them. And
Right.
I don't know, I'm not really using my college degree necessarily as I haven't applied for any job that was like, you need a bachelor's in some science to be able to
To
have
do
this
this.
job. I
Yeah.
have not done that. I've
Right.
done a lot of things that are arguably like biologically and environmentally oriented,
Right.
but yeah, I don't there's a lot of time and money to go to be a farmer.
Yeah.
And
Or
yeah, to like do gig work, working in gardens and things like that. But
right. Right.
it's also definitely a necessary part thing that happened in our lives.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
for a lot of other reasons, like I really think that college is a valuable experience,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think everyone needs it, and I don't think you need it to necessarily be successful.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it's an important time for all kinds of things, for brain
Yeah.
and social development and experience and
Right. I
yeah.
mean, even if you don't ever end up using that degree for what you intended to use it for, the
Mhm,
experience and like the skills and things that you've learned to
mhm,
succeed at doing that on all the different levels, emotional, social,
yeah.
the other ones that I can't think of right now because it's late. They're, those things help you regardless.
Mhm,
And it's interesting. I still work in a school,
mhm,
and the district I work in right now is making this really big push to, just that, focus on, it's like you don't have to go to college. You could go into a work study program, or you could go straight into a career or whatever. And they want to make sure every kid can be successful after high school. That's basically just like their gist right now. It's like, look, we know not everybody's going to go to a 4-year school. We just
mhm,
want to make sure that everybody has the skills to be successful at
totally.
whatever they choose to do after that 4 years of high school. And so there's this kind of big push on job skills and all of that or whatever.
Mhm,
um and like, at the same time, I'm having these conversations with my son who's 7, which is crazy. And I know, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so
Yeah,
crazy.
he's 7.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And he's like, Dad, it's like every other couple day, he'll be like, Dad, I want to be this. And he'll just like, say something new every time. So it's like, I want to be an artist. Okay, cool. That's great. Or then the next day he's like, I want to be a baker. And I'm like, awesome, you do that. And then he's like, the next day he's like, I want to dress hair. That's what I want to do. I'm like, cool, go for it. But then every day he'll say that thing. And then he'll turn and look at me and be like, Dad, do you have to go to college to do that? And I'm like, nope, or yep, or whatever. Because he's convinced he's gonna live in our house forever and that he's never leaving. Yeah,
Oh,
I know, right? So like, that whole like I remember one day we were finally like, honey, there are colleges after, there are schools after high school that are in Appleton. And he looks at us and he's like, no, there aren't. And I'm like, yeah, there are. There's like 4 of them. Like you could go to one of them. You could literally live at home and go to school. And he's like, I can? And I'm like, yeah, hun. And he's like, whoa, like mind blown. And it's so cool looking at that, 7-year-old who honestly doesn't even need to be thinking about it at all. Like it doesn't matter. He has so much time. But
Mhm.
like, that like unabashed kind of like he really does think he can do whatever he wants to do.
Mhm.
And that reality hasn't set in yet of there are options that I have to pick. He's just kind of like, I'm going to do whatever I want and nobody's
Tomorrow
going
I'll
to
do
stop me.
whatever I want then.
Yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want and I'm going to live it with my mom and dad forever. And that's awesome. And I'm like, okay, like that's so cool. Like, I'm glad you think that, you know, I need to start recording him when he says this so I can play it back to him when he tells me he wants to move out.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm like, just wait. You don't even have to wait 10 years. You might have to wait like 5 or 6 years and show
Yeah,
up
I
to him
know.
and he'll be
We're
like,
getting we're
"Oh,
getting to that point. He's
okay."
over halfway there, you
Yeah,
know.
over halfway to being like, I hate everyone.
Yeah. He's
Wish I
gonna
was never born.
he's gonna hit that phase hard. Poor kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
we all had to go through it,
Well, yeah, it's part of
The
growing
rite of
up.
passage.
You gotta go through those hormones eventually.
I know, but being told that you can do whatever you want, I think that's a really powerful place.
Yeah.
Yeah, dream big, dude.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
just having the
have
confidence
something.
to like roll with it and be like, yeah, mom and dad, this is what I'm doing.
Hmm. Yeah, and then the support after those choices to be like, sometimes it's not a great fit, and that's
Hmm.
okay too. And
Yeah.
recognizing that rather than just powering through and being miserable in something is a is something that I feel like I had to learn along the way.
Hmm.
When at first I was like, oh, this was the only option. Like I would have probably been I probably would have benefited from a gap year before college or transferring colleges once I realized that my interests were vastly different than I thought they were. Like I
Yeah.
would have, and I never look at it at a time past and say, I wish I'd done it differently because
Hmm.
like I wouldn't be right in this moment that I do love so dearly
Right.
if
If
all of
you
these things
hadn't
hadn't
done all those
happened.
things, right.
Yeah, but I have if I would do it again, like I needed to go to Lawrence for a year so I could go on an ORC backpacking trip and be like, whoa,
I love this.
I love this. Whoa. And then transfer to like Colorado College or some ag school, somewhere that I could have like
Really
gotten a
follow
degree
that
that I could
passion.
into right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not feel like I'm desperately trying to catch up to everyone who has similar interests as me, but have been doing it for the last 10 or 15 years.
Right.
But that, yeah, that's just all part of the journey. And
Yeah.
you can't wish anything undone because then you wouldn't be in this spot wishing anything. You might be in this spot wishing something else undone, you know?
Hmm.
We're where we are for all the reasons that we're here.
Absolutely. Plus, then we wouldn't have been such awesome friends. So good
There
thing
you
you
go.
stayed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. I think fondly about Appleton a lot actually. There's still this deep Midwestern suburban person in me
Hmm.
that it's like it's fall and I hear it's been in the 80s and 90s, at least in Chicago, which
It was
I think
85 today in Appleton.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was 50, between 50 and 55 today here. I'm in Juneau for the week.
That's awesome.
But yeah, kind of like cloudy, drizzly. It's getting drizzly, but this is perfect for me. But I also want it to be, I want that fall feeling of the crunching leaves, and I want to go apple picking and get a pumpkin. But here, pumpkins are so expensive that I'm not gonna
Well,
bother.
yeah, you gotta ship them all the way to Alaska.
Yeah, like they started in God knows where and had to ride on a barge for a week to get here, and they're
Right.
heavy, so why would you, and you can't grow them here, so why would you get a pumpkin? I actually pulled a teddy last year, and I carved like a cantaloupe or something like that and put it on a plate in my house. I don't know, but I got some like free produce and carved it up instead of a pumpkin.
Well, you know what? Maybe this October I'll send you one of those like fake decorative pumpkins. You can have that in your house.
There you go. They're a lot lighter than real pumpkins, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Send you an autumn leaf candle or something, and then you can just
that's it. That or like fireside would be, yeah. That's the cozy fall Halloween vibes that I really like. And I live in a town called Haines now, which actually has deciduous trees that turn yellow and lose their leaves in the fall. Juneau just kind of like,
they're all pine trees, aren't they?
Yeah, it's all spruce, basically, spruce and hemlock. So it stays really green here, but except up in the alpine, it kind of turns like a reddish yellow, and it's pretty. But yeah, Haines is fall right now, and it's still over. It can be over in like 2 days, and depending on how the weather happens. But right now, it's this magical, very close to my heart, like making me nostalgic for fall in the Midwest kind of feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of mind-blowing to me because like I said, it was like 85 today. Last year on Halloween, it was 20 degrees and it snowed.
Whoa.
I know. So it's like the difference is just insane over like a month, how rapidly it changes, which is something like I wish was a little different about the Midwest, is that I wish that the seasons wouldn't just like change over like 3 weeks, then it's like over and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, it rains super hard and falls over.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fall happened. Guess we're done. Yeah. And then winter drags on. It's like, oh, it's May and it's still snowing. Darn it.
Oh, isn't it true? I always kind of get a little anxious in fall in Alaska because I want it to last longer than it does. And I'm not always ready for winter because we don't have the shortest days. We have like 6-hour days around the solstice. And the daylight that does happen is really low angle in the sky, and it kind of feels like the golden hour for a good portion of the day. It's beautiful. But this year especially, the PCT was devilishly hot. It was so hot. It was so hot the whole time, and I've been living in a rainforest most of the time for most of the last 4 years, and it was stressful, and it just made me hate the sun, and it made me hate the heat. And now it's about to be winter, but I feel like it was just winter.
Yeah.
I left Haines. I left a 6-month winter when I left Haines, and then I was at borderline heat exhausted for 3-4 months, and now it's gonna be winter again. And I'm like, wait, I didn't sign up for this. Trying to find the balance with that, and it's been a cool journey to come to terms with the deep winter of Alaska. Even if we get it pretty easy here. It's like it's warmer than it's going to be in Appleton this winter.
Right.
Yeah, and it will probably snow more, but it will be vastly warmer.
Right. Oh, it'll be freezing here. I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, we'll be lucky if with last winter it was a lot of like 32 degrees, which is awful. But I finally came to terms with the need for winter and the need for that kind of rest, which is another thing that I pulled from this audiobook I was listening to earlier, like being worthy of rest,
Yeah.
considering yourself worthy of rest is a very interesting concept that I've battled with a lot.
Oh yeah.
Maybe why I had to go hike a long distance trail. And but here there's this balance between summer is just go, and it's kind of frantic at times, especially when the weather's nice. That you have 18 hours of daylight and no true darkness at night. And you're just like, well, I'm just gonna keep going. Like, oh, I lost track of time, and suddenly it's 10:30 at night, and I work at 7 a.m. Like, whoa, okay, all right, I guess I should go home now and have dinner.
I guess I should go back home.
But winter's totally the opposite, and I kind of mourn the loss of winter when it's January, February, and the days are starting to speed up and how much longer they're getting at a time. I'm like, wait, I really loved that time when I had like 4 good hours to go do something outside, and then got to cozy up at home and cook a long soup, and there was no pressure.
Yeah.
Like, it's dark and it's automatically a lot colder. So like, let's be restful and let's be quiet. And if the environment wasn't forcing that in me, it's another thing that I would struggle with. And I see that same thing happening all around. It's just like another societal pressure that has
to always be productive.
Yeah, to be conditioned into us, like, be doing something, your worth is because you have done blank.
Well, or even that, or what I see a lot more now is hey, that hobby that you really like, how are you going to monetize that hobby so you can make money off of it? And it's like, oh, I enjoyed doing this before I had to make money off of it.
Right? People are always saying, like, don't do what you love for work because you're going to ruin it.
You're going to ruin it. Yeah.
If you love woodworking, like, don't be a carpenter because
you're not going to want to be a carpenter anymore.
Right? Yeah. It's tough, but it's also like, but I want to spend I don't want to squeeze this hobby into little chunks of my day, but I need to make money. And that's why I think that they naturally come together. And it's just like, how do I monetize my hobby?
Yeah.
How do I open an Etsy store?
How do I monetize being outside all the time?
I think about that this is a very frequent conversation I have with my friends. And my solution is spend as little money as possible so that you can make as little money as possible so you can be outside all the time.
Well, there you go.
That's how you do it.
This has figured it out, everybody. So if you want to live outside all the time, don't spend any money so you don't have to make very much money.
Trade people for rent, dumpster dive. Barter. Yeah, all great things. Yeah. I'm kind of curious. I actually, my most recent exciting news is that a friend of mine and I bought a piece of property in Haines. Nice. Just outside of Haines. And what I want to do is I want to farm the crap out of it. I just want to grow as many vegetables as I can. I want to feed Haines and wonder what it'll be like for the first time to farm my own land. Like, I've worked on
other places, right?
I've worked on like 15 different farms,
right,
for very lengths of time, and there's a sadness to walk away from it and say, okay, I like planted this whole garden and I'm not going to eat anything out of it,
right? Because I'm going somewhere else or doing something.
Because it's going to take 4 months for this cauliflower to be cauliflower, and or you build something and you're not the one who gets to come back and be like, hey, this thing is still here because I built it.
Right. Now it'll be your place though, so you can build it and it's yours.
I know. Yeah, but it's also, what's going to change about it if I'm doing it to be selling produce? I don't know. Is my dream a little too airy to be like, I want to feed Haines? And I know the reality of trying to make money farming. And usually if it's like a couple, one person needs to not be a farmer.
Yeah.
They need to have money to actually support this project. And then
project
the other person
they're doing, right.
Yeah, supplement it with the veggie money that you're making.
Well, what you got to do then is just create like a commune.
Dream. That's all I think about is how do I get all my friends to live with me here? I talked about that this morning. I was coming back from this farm on Shelter Island was our first destination when we came to Southeast Alaska.
Mhm.
And of the last 5 summers, I lived out there full time 3 summers.
Mhm.
Like when the pandemic hit, I moved out there and I lived there full time for 5 months.
Mhm.
And it's this off-grid, magical wonderland of timber frame buildings and vegetables and forest and muskeg bog. And it's like my favorite place on earth. And I loved going back there. I was just there this weekend for building raising. And it's kind of become my model for how I want to exist. Because last year I was living with 5 of my closest friends in very close, intimate lifestyle. Definitely very interdependent and communal in getting things done, making it so that the farm would function and that we could function and do work out there.
Right.
And it's like all of my people weren't there for sure, and there were people that I was missing really, really hard. But I wouldn't turn my phone on for days. It's like the
Right.
people I want to be with are right here. The things I want to living off grid, a 90-minute kayak from town.
A 90-minute kayak from town.
90-minute kayak, and then I don't know, you're not in downtown, you have to like drive 20 minutes to get to downtown from there. But like living there, I don't care. And the place that my friend and I bought is 25 miles outside of Haines. And Haines is a small town of about 2,000.
Mhm.
Right now it feels kind of lonely out there. And I haven't like moved in full time, but it's community. Having the community in your vicinity, like, is all that matters in the world.
Right. It's a hard pivot
Yeah.
from it's like I really want this, but I'm also like I also want to be close to other people, but like I really want this. And it's
Yeah.
yeah.
You can do anything anywhere if you've got the people with you that you need. And I know that's not everyone, that some people are like, I'm gonna live in the woods in my cabin and I'll have my dog and that's it. And I'm
Right.
great with that. And I totally support that too. And I see that need in people. But yeah, I learned a lot about community in my time in Alaska and in my wandering and on my time on the PCT, that like people are important. We're social creatures,
Mhm.
and um yeah, I'm a social creature. I didn't know that about myself. I was a lone wolf for a while, and like I want a
Like, oh yeah,
pack.
I need people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot comes out of people, even if it's quiet company. It's a really
Yeah.
beautiful, sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right. I hate to cut this off, but my son
it's
is going to bed.
it's no time for you. I know. I really
It's
appreciate
bedtime
you
for us.
pushing it
Yeah.
a little later for me.
No,
So I
it's
can
totally
get
cool.
to
It's
bed.
totally cool. It was
Yeah.
super awesome talking to you, Liz.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very great getting to hear about your everything because I miss doing this. But yeah, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't be a stranger.
Oh, never.
You're good at that.
Yeah.
Much better than me. Somebody has to be good at it. Otherwise,
Someone's gotta shoot messages off every couple weeks or else it doesn't happen.
yes. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
send me love to all your family and all the Appleton people who are still around for me.
Yeah, I will let them know that we talked and that you say hi.
Yeah, right on. And
Yeah.
I'm honored to have been in this conversation. I'm
Oh,
blushing here.
you are, but it's also probably because it's 55 degrees there.
Yeah, I
Maybe a little
overheat
bit.
easily. Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty. You
Awesome.
have a good night, Mike.
You too, Liz. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.